He spent his whole life fighting to survive, never knowing the people who abandoned him were the ones shaping his future in secret. But when love became the only truth left, he had to choose. Follow the legacy that broke him, or fight for the life he built on his own. They say some people are born with a silver spoon, but I wasn't even born with a nameplate on my crib. I came into this world with storms above me and silence below, no inheritance, no support, no safe hands to fall into. Just a single mother, who did her best until the world wore her down, and a boy who had to learn early that survival was a skill, not a gift. I'm Noah. I'm 29 now, but I've been fighting my whole life. Fighting for respect. Fighting to be seen. Fighting to love and be loved, and if I'm honest, I wasn't always winning. Life started teaching me lessons before I could walk. My mother worked 3 jobs. My father was a name I wasn't allowed to say. I watched dreams die in front of me, before I even knew how to dream for myself. Still, I kept going. I thought if I just worked harder, kept my head down, and didn't complain, I'd make it. One day. Somehow, but the world doesn't reward silence. It doesn't notice the quiet ones breaking inside, and that's when she came in. Her name is Arya, 28. Sharp eyes, soft voice. A girl who looked like she had everything. I never did. Money, peace, parents who actually cared. We met at the community center where I was training local teens in boxing, trying to keep them off the streets. I knew too well. She was volunteering in the library next door. Books and punches. That's how our worlds met. She was warmth I didn't think I deserved, and I was a storm she wasn't ready to walk into. But she didn't run. Not when she saw my scars. Not when she learned my past. Not even when I tried to push her away, thinking she deserved better. She stayed, and that scared me more than loneliness ever had, because for the first time, someone saw me. Not the fighter. Not the broken kid. Not the survivor. Just Noah. But just as I let her in, my past came knocking with fists harder than mine, and a truth I had buried for years. The father I never knew. He wasn't dead. He was alive and closer than I ever imagined. And worse, he was tied to a secret that could destroy everything I'd built, and take Arya down with it. So now I have to choose. Do I keep fighting the world the way I always have alone? Or do I fight with her? For us. Because maybe I wasn't born lucky, but maybe, just maybe, I was born for this. I thought I had built walls high enough to keep the world out and strong enough to protect what little of me was left. But Arya was patient. She never tried to tear those walls down. She just waited outside them, quietly reminding me I didn't have to live like that anymore. She asked questions gently. Did you always want to be a boxer, or was it something you ran to? That was the thing about her, she never judged the bruises I carried. Not the ones on my skin or the ones on my soul. But every time she asked, I hesitated. Because how do you tell someone like her, someone full of light, that the only reason you ever threw a punch was because life hit first? Arya came from a world where love was spoken freely. Where fathers stayed. Where doors didn't slam in anger but closed quietly for privacy. She once told me her biggest fear was not living up to her potential. Mine was becoming the man I swore I'd never be. But there were things about Arya too that didn't add up. Some nights she'd disappear into silence. Her phone would ring, and she'd glance at it, then let it go to voicemail. Once, I saw her cry over a letter she never explained. She hid her pain behind kindness the same way I hid mine behind fists. One night, after a long training session, we sat on the rooftop above the gym, city lights below us. Sweat still on my skin. She looked at me and whispered, "What if we're both running from something?" I didn't know what to say. But in that moment, I realized maybe she wasn't just saving me. Maybe I was supposed to save her. The next day, everything shifted. A man in a sleek black car showed up outside the gym. Said he was looking for me. Knew my name. Knew my mother's name. Handed me an envelope with a crest I'd never seen. Arya saw it happen, and I swear for a split second her face went pale, like she recognized it. But how could she? I stood frozen, watching the car disappear into traffic. When I turned to Arya, she looked away. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just my past catching up. It was ours. I didn't open the envelope that night. It sat on the kitchen table like a thread in paper form. My name was printed in bold letters, the seal unbroken. But the weight of it was heavier than anything I'd ever carried in the ring. Arya avoided the topic. She stayed close but careful. Like she was waiting for me to bring it up, but terrified of what I'd find inside. I couldn't sleep. My past had always haunted me. But this felt different. This felt like a setup, like something bigger was playing out and I was the last one to catch on. The next morning, I walked into the gym early, hoping to hit the bag and silence my mind. But the second I opened the doors, my trainer, Marcus, gave me a look that made my stomach twist. "You all right, kid?" he asked. "You got visitors." Two men stood near the ring. Sharp suits, blank stares. Not cops, not journalists. Something worse, corporate. "We represent the Reynolds Foundation," one of them said. "Your father left behind a few things. He was a complicated man." I froze. Reynolds. That name was on the envelope too. And in that instant, it clicked. I remembered a conversation from weeks ago. Rita, half asleep beside me, murmuring something about her family name. I hadn't thought twice about it at the time. But now I couldn't ignore the truth. "Reynolds," I said slowly. "You mean like Aria Reynolds?" The man gave a careful smile. "Ah, so you know." Everything blurred after that. I walked out. Aria was waiting by the gym entrance. She didn't say a word. Just looked at me, eyes filled with regret. For the first time, I didn't know whether to hold her or walk away. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, voice shaking. "I wanted to," she whispered, "but I didn't want you to think I saw you as part of some project. You weren't. You're not?" She stopped herself. "My father knew about you. He knew what he left behind. I found out after he died. But I didn't know how to make it right. I just wanted to be close to you before it all came out." My heart pounded like it did before every fight, fast, dangerous, uncertain. Everything I thought I knew about US about her was suddenly under question. Was she sent here? Was she using me? Or worse, did she care? And now, the one person I was finally starting to trust might be part of the very thing that broke me. I looked at the envelope in my hand again. And for the first time in years, I didn't want to open it, because I wasn't sure what I'd find inside. Truth, or betrayal. I opened the envelope. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from something worse. Hope. A hope I didn't want to admit I still carried. The hope that maybe my father had left behind an explanation, a reason, a sign that I hadn't been worthless to him after all. Inside was a letter, a trust document, and a photo. It was old, grainy, and crisped, but there we were. Him, my mother, and me, barely a year old, on his lap. The man I had built into a villain in my mind looked human, tired maybe, but there was a softness in his eyes I wasn't ready for. The letter started with 5 words. "I never thought I'd read. I never stopped loving you." My throat tightened. I kept reading. He explained how his family had forced him to choose between them and us. How Arya's family, my family, threatened to disown him if he stayed with my mother. He didn't fight hard enough, he admitted that, but he watched from afar. Paid for the gym anonymously. Hired Marcus to protect me, without me ever knowing. And Arya, he asked her to find me, not to spy, not to manipulate, but to finally bridge the gap. I felt sick, angry, grateful, everything at once. My identity's foundation I built through pain and isolation was cracking beneath me. I ran to find Arya. She was sitting in the library, the same place we met. Knees pulled to her chest like she was bracing for impact. Her eyes met mine, and instantly filled with tears. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said. "I didn't want to ruin what we were building." "You didn't ruin it," I said quietly. "You were part of it. From the start." She reached for me, but before I could take her hand, the doors burst open. A man I didn't recognize walked in with 2 bodyguards, tall, polished, cold. "Mr. Reynolds would be disappointed in how you've handled this," he said to Arya. "You were supposed to bring him in quietly. You've compromised everything." My fists clenched. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. Just stared at me like I was a problem that needed to be cleaned up. "You're not going anywhere with them," I said, stepping in front of Arya. The man gave a tight, warning smile. "You're not in control of this anymore, Noah. You never were." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a setup, a power move, and Arya. She was trapped between loyalty and love. Everything was about to explode. For a moment, the world stood still. I stood between Arya and the stranger with fists clenched, heart racing. He said I wasn't in control, but that wasn't new. I had spent my life fighting to take control back. I wasn't about to lose it again. The man stepped forward, confident and calm. "You think this was about love," he said. "Your father was grooming you to take over. To clean up the Reynolds name. The gym. your discipline, your quiet life. It was all training for something bigger. Arya's breath caught. That's not what he told me. He lied to both of you. The man snapped. You were just leverage. We needed someone with grit and a clean slate. Someone the public would believe in. A redemption story. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I'm not a son, I said. I'm a PR campaign. He smirked. You were a ghost until we gave you a name again. And then Arya stepped forward. I told you I didn't know everything, she whispered, voice trembling. But there's more. I turned slowly. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with tears. That letter your father wrote. He didn't write it recently. He wrote it 10 years ago. And never mailed it. I blinked. What? I found it in a locked drawer after he died. I thought maybe he wanted to send it but never got the chance. I thought it could help heal you. So I had someone make it look like it was recent. I just wanted you to feel like you were wanted. The air left my lungs. You forged the date? I asked, stunned. You made me believe he cared when maybe he never did. I didn't want to lie, she said. But I couldn't let you keep living like you were unloved. I thought it might give you peace. Peace. That word rang like a curse. The letter, the gym, Marcus, all of it curated, engineered. My whole journey wasn't the raw, honest fight I thought it was. It was a script, a staged story. And I was the puppet. Arya reached for me again, but this time I stepped back. I didn't know what was real anymore. Not her, not my father, not even me. And somewhere in that hollow, shocked silence, the suited man leaned in and said, So ... what'll it be, Noah? Do you walk away now or step into the life we built for you? My fists ached but my heart ached more. I stood there with a forged letter in one hand and a future I didn't ask for in the other. The air was thick with betrayal, but somewhere underneath all the rage, something deeper stirred a quiet, stubborn voice inside me. One-eyed silenced. For too long, I wasn't angry because they lied. I was angry because I believed I needed their truth to define me. No, I said finally, my voice low but certain. Arya blinked. No. I turned to the man in the suit. I'm not taking the name. I'm not stepping into a life built on lies and strings. You want a polished heir? Go buy one. I'm not for sale. He narrowed his eyes. You'd walk away from everything. Your father left you. He left me nothing, I said. You people watched me struggle. You let my mother work herself into an early grave while you lived in penthouses and private jets. That's not family. That's politics. He stepped forward, but Arya blocked him this time. You're done, she said quietly, firmly. You don't speak for my father anymore. And you don't control me. Her voice didn't shake and neither did mine when I looked back at her. But you did lie, I said, softer now, and you made a choice for me that wasn't yours to make. I know, she whispered, but it wasn't for your sympathy, or mine. It was just I wanted you to have one moment where you didn't feel abandoned. Tears shimmered in her eyes, and this time, I didn't step back. I don't need lies to feel loved, I said. I just need truth. Real, broken, messy truth. And do you still believe in us? She asked. That question, that was the real battle. Not my name, not the legacy. But whether I could still believe that something pure could grow from all this wreckage. I do, I said. If we start from zero, no secrets. No more saving each other. Just being there. Side by side. She nodded slowly, as if she'd been waiting for that answer all along. We walked out together. No inheritance, no headlines, no clean fairy tale ending. Just two people who weren't born lucky but found something worth fighting for anyway. Some endings don't come with applause. No spotlight, no headlines. Just quiet decisions, made in the stillness after the storm. Walking away from the Reynolds legacy wasn't easy. There was money, power, influential, handed to me like a crown I didn't ask for. But I chose something else. Freedom. Not the kind that's written into contracts or trusts, but the kind you earn. The kind that lives in the choices you make when no one is watching. The kind that lets you finally breathe. Arya and I moved to a smaller part of the city. I opened a real boxing gym of my own, not just a place to fight, but a place to heal. A space for kids like I used to be. Lost, angry, misunderstood, and slowly, I watched them change just like I did. Arya started teaching full-time again. Turns out, she never wanted the boardrooms or the pressure. She wanted books, laughter, stories. A life with meaning, not money. And together, we started building something honest. We still had hard days. Days where the past crept in, whispering, what ifs and regrets. But we faced those days together. As equals. As partners. No more lies. No more pretending. One evening, as we closed up the gym, Arya turned to me and said, "You know, you were never broken. You were just unfinished." That stuck with me. Because it's true. I wasn't born lucky, but I was born to fight. Not just in the ring, but for love, truth, and the life I deserved, and now, I'm finally living it. Did you enjoy the story? Let me know in the comments below. What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Romantic, motivational, emotional, or something entirely new?